What if reality isn't fixed, but shaped by how we see it? In this episode, we'll explore how perception influences our reality and how shifting perspectives can transform our experiences and outcomes. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla podcast. Today we continue the series inspired by the book, The Light Within, A Journey Through the Axioms of Ashla. I am your host and author of the book, Justin Gates. Today I am joined by my longtime brother from another mother, my own teacher. Once upon a time, I know it's hard to believe because I'm really old, and it's hard to believe that my teacher would still be alive, but hey, how's it going, Derek?
Good. How is it going with you?
Pretty good. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about the Axiom of Light. Perception is reality. This axiom teaches us that perception shapes the way we experience and interpret the world. By understanding the power of perspectives, we can align our thoughts and actions with the light, creating balance and clarity. Each individual's perception colors their experience and influences their beliefs and their actions. Our attitudes, our beliefs, our biases, experiences, and mindsets all help shape our perspective and manifest the universe we experience from moment to moment. If these parts are influenced and controlled by things like fear or doubt, anger, desire to control, or any darker states, then your reality will be one of imbalance, struggle, and suffering. Your struggle and suffering will extend beyond you to others in your life. So that's what we're here to talk about today, to hopefully to help ourselves not let things like fear and doubt and stuff control our perception, because it will manifest a kind of ugly reality. What is this axiom, perception is reality? What does that mean to you? How would you describe that to a student?
This axiom is probably, first of all, I love all these axioms. These axioms are absolutely just the bread and butter of the Jedi way as it's practiced in the real world. They are the best. This axiom in particular is one of my favorites, and I'm going to briefly get into that, and I'm going to answer that question at the same time. We've all grown up with our parents and our mentors, our teachers, all telling us things similar to, if you focus, you're going to change the way you see the world. The world will bend to your the way you think, and so on and so forth. You hear it in motivation speeches. Salespeople hear it in sales seminars. You hear it on news broadcasts, editorials. You get you know. You hear this thing all the time, and you hear it so much that it just becomes like part of the daily rabble. Like, you don't really. It seems like it's become more of a just a phrase that you just kind of a phrase of positivity. And the sad reality is the phrase is actually truthful. It is truthful on every level of creation, from the universe to creation to life. I've run into this problem with students often because, number one, we throw words around to try to give our points of view emphasis. And it takes a lot of weight out of that word. Like, words like literally. You know what I mean? Right. I literally did. It was literal. Of course you did. Of course you did it. You don't have to say literally. You did it. You know what I mean? Like, it was literally. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. Was it really that hilarious? So, we throw these ideas around, not just to embellish, but to bring like the full weight of the perspective to the point we're trying to make. And it takes so much away from the words. So I often run into this problem when I'm talking to people, especially with concepts like this, because this is not just a metaphysical, philosophical point of view. This is a scientific concept that has been proven.
Well, and they get hijacked and turned into buzzwords too, and
that's exactly right. They get hijacked, and everything's a buzz idea, a buzzword, a power concept, or whatever. Jedi fiction have a quote: "Your focus determines your reality." It's a nice philosophical, feel good sort of Jedi thing to hear and say and hear, but it's the truth. This is like, I always run into things like this because, for example, when someone asks you, can you describe the Force? Automatically think of Ben Kenobi as he's discussing the Force with Luke Skywalker. And you have those buzzwords, those power concepts, but they're not buzzwords. They're not power. Like everything that the character Obi-Wan Kenobi said to the character Luke Skywalker is actually factual. It's just presented in such a way where there's no emphasis to it. So when you hear, your perception is your reality or focus determines your reality, I want to briefly just kind of underscore, without using too many buzzwords and power concepts, just how true that is. There was an experiment. I used to play sports when I was a kid. I think you were athletic too when you were younger. We both wore the uniform. Okay, we both worked. We both served the country. So we've heard things like this in basic training. Our coaches say things like, if you focus and you just fix and focus and fix on the objective, you're going to get the goal. You're going to get the basket. You're going to catch the ball. You're going to make the touchdown. And they're right. It's
true. Yeah, it's true.
If anybody's ever played, like, I'll use basketball. If anybody's ever played basketball, if the minute your coach starts to work on your concentration, and the minute you start to listen to that person and take those recommendations to heart and actually apply them, you start to see you're making baskets, you're doing assists, you're making layups, you're doing it. And the same with all these other sports, and the same with anything that you do, right? So we've all been there. There was an experiment many, many, many years ago. It's a very famous experiment, and it goes under the wire with recognition because people don't understand the significance of this experiment. It's called the double-slit experiment, and we teach this at Ashla Nights. And in a nutshell, not getting too technical, a couple of scientists got together and they focused electrons through a card, right? Like a slit card. They focused these electrons, and the electrons they measured, they came across, they emitted like dots. Okay? They were shooting dots. And the minute we observed them, the minute we looked and took a closer look at these electrons as they were going through the slitted material that they were focused through, they changed and became waves. This is called the double-slit experiment. Look it up. There's tons of videos on it. There's lots of write-ups on it. This is what this axiom represents. The minute you observe, the minute your attention is focused, actually changing the reality of that thing. You're changing. The minute you observe a thing, you change the nature of it. There's the old joke about if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around, does it make a sound? That's the question, right? Let me ask you that, Justin.
We can assume it does, but we're not observing it, so
very good.
Can't say for sure.
Spoken like a true master. The idea, most people say, "Oh yeah, because it's constant." We know because we've seen trees fall and we've heard trees make noise, so it doesn't matter if we're there or not. But you don't know. You don't know. Your experiences with trees falling and noise being made is because you observe it. The reason why we have 5 senses is so we can observe and interact. The minute you change your senses, like people who are blind, the minute you start augmenting or subtracting or changing your senses, other senses kick in to compensate. So your whole perspective and how you interact with things changes. Right there. That's your double-slit experiment right there. So what's the significance of this? This experiment and all the experiences that you have in your life that involve focusing and determination and observation and making things happen, this is not luck. This is not the universe coming. Well, yeah, but we'll just say the universe not coming to your aid and giving you a freebie. This is you controlling your reality. Think about if you internalize this message, if you internalize this lesson, if you take this lesson to heart and you make this part of your philosophy, imagine what you can accomplish in your life. And you probably think, oh, why didn't you do that? How come more people aren't doing that? To live as a human being on this planet is to suffer, is to sacrifice, is to endure. We have bills to pay. We have children to raise. We have mortgages. We have jobs. We have stresses. We have medical ailments. We have vacations. There's active living is enough to distract anybody, especially nowadays, is enough to distract anybody from focusing too much on their reality. The reality becomes the experiences that we all have. These become weights in our reality. It makes it harder for us to step back, calm our spirit, calm our minds, focus, and try to change or try to augment our situation. It's hard. That's why we meditate. It's hard. That's why we fellowship with each other. We have these podcasts, we have these lessons, we have these learning, these online institutions where you can learn and just kind of bounce things off because life is distracting. Life takes away from our spiritual and philosophical development. But I digress. So the universe is broken into three percentiles, right? 4% is everything that you can observe and interact with. Everything that you're seeing in your room right now, everything that you can touch, feel, taste, experience physically is 4%. 26% is dark matter. 70% is dark energy. Okay, the relationship between dark energy, dark matter, and on the map. Do your own research, look it up. It's fascinating. I don't want to take too much time with that. If we are in control of our own reality, we only have 4% to manipulate. Think about that. You want to change your reality, you have 4% to work with. Not 26, not 70, not 100, just 4%. Think about that. The next time you're in a situation where you need to call upon all your metaphysical and philosophical faculties, you think that you're overwhelmed and the weight of your situation and the weight of your is on top of you. It's really not. 4% is on top of you. Remember that. Every time you have a bad day, 4% is messing with you. Every time you think you can't do something, that's just 4%. You can't get motivated to get to the gym. That's just 4%. I just got to negotiate 4%. I've got to convince myself. I got to change my perspective. Just 4. I got to work with 4%. Think about that. If you get it in your head that all I got to do is deal with 4%, think about how your perspective is going to change. That's your double slit right there. So focus determines your reality. That is literal. That is not a philosophical, metaphysical pun or buzz or popular little. That is a fact. It is a fact. And I would love to hear what you think about that, Master Bane.
I think a lot of it gets mixed up, especially in kind of the metaphysical realms, the spiritual realms, the magical realms, where people are trying to affect reality. Because there's a lot of people. I don't know if you watch Family Guy. Was it Family Guy or was it American? Yeah, it was Family Guy, where Brian writes that book, Wish It, Want It, Do It.
Yeah.
And it was they were kind of teasing the people who do a lot of work trying to manifest things through all these kinds of different techniques, and these techniques are good and these techniques are powerful, but you still have to get up and do something. That was kind of the joke. So yeah, you're right. We can affect, and we do affect the entire universe around us because we're connected to the universe around us. You throw a rock in a pond and it creates ripples. But I like to bring it a little closer to where we are. And that's where I'm going to lead this for a few minutes here.
Go ahead.
I like to kind of dabble where I can make the biggest impact in my life, and I can make the biggest impact in other people's lives. And when we talk about the lens of perception, we can't forget to touch upon things like beliefs, our biases. We all have biases. We do. We all have preferences and biases. That's a human thing. And I won't get into, we all know which ones are the bad ones, which ones are the good ones, and which ones are just human nature. We have emotions. We have experiences. We have past traumas. We have all these different things that color our lenses. And you can't avoid that. So how do we affect our perception when we have these kind of, and for most of us, a lot of these lenses are preset before we even start to look through them, because we're born in a certain place, or we're born in a certain way, or we're born, you know what I'm saying? where can we make the biggest impact on our perceptions? And really, this comes down to where we connect to the force at the most personal level, because the force the force seeks balance, and no matter what you do, it's going to drag you to balance eventually. You know, if you're orientated too right or too up or too down, the force will put things in your life, and if you prefer, the universe will put things in your life, or if you prefer, God will put things in your life. Things will be put in your life no matter how you perceive them. It's always trying to push you to center, like everything else that we're connected to. So we have to pay particular attention to the things we believe, our biases. We have to be honest about our biases. When they become apparent to us, or when someone calls you out or someone points them out to you, you know, they're not just trying to jack you up. They're trying to help you understand, hey, you may not understand this, but that's pretty judgy what you just said, or you know, whatever. So we have to be aware of these things that color these lenses. And these are things that can be changed and can be adjusted by you, and only by you. No one can make you less judgy. No one can change your beliefs. No one can make you less or more emotional. No one can change your experiences. And unfortunately, no one can make your traumas go away. And although the trauma that you get in your life may not be your fault, but unfortunately, they become our responsibility to fix, because no one else is going to fix them. Right? So the lens that we look at the world with, they are colored for each of us differently. And it's interesting. You started off talking about the double slit experiment, because the metaphor I wanted to share today was like comparing perception to a prism, right? Light passes through it, but depending on the angle of the prism, what does it do? It creates all these different colors. Just like a prism, we can adjust the angle that we look at things. We can adjust the angle of how light shines through us. What do you think about how our beliefs and biases and emotions create a kind of color our lenses?
Oh my goodness. This is one of the most difficult things about being a human being, especially nowadays. You know, we are the, you know, there's a discussion, there's there's so many discussions to be looked up about how we are the sum of our experiences, things of this nature. The human condition, I'm becoming very sensitive to this nowadays. As I'm getting older and the world is changing around me, and I'm trying to stay relevant in all aspects of my being in relation to the world and the universe. I'm becoming more and more attuned to that this inequity that we have with that very thing. Like our experiences, they don't just define us, they shape and mold us. The Jedi of fiction got selected sometimes shortly after birth, like maybe 2 years old, 1 year old, 3 years old. If you exhibited an affinity for the Force at such a young age, the Jedi recruiters would come to your planet and talk to your parents. Most times they would talk to your parents and convince them that you may have a chance to live a life in service to the galaxy, right? Like, wow, that's crazy. My kid can become a Jedi Knight one day and serve the greater good. Oh my God, yeah, that's great. Let's do that. And you have this empty vessel to train and guide and shape and mold. But the Jedi of the real world, the world that we live in, we're not born into that. We're born into, like I said, strife and sacrifice and struggle, adversity. Every single one of us has a story or two or three or four or five or six or seven or eight or nine. Like we all have these experiences that, think about like how many, like the people you meet every so often, like, oh my God, I really like Justin, you know, or Derek. I'm about 50. I'm 50. So, you know, people who meet me now, oh my God, I really like Derek. That's such a compliment to me now. You know why? Because I've had 50 years to screw things up for myself. I've had 50 years of being trapped in the human condition and letting my experiences be the sum of my being, for better or worse.
Yeah.
So
And
for
you've been
someone
through
to,
it.
And I've been through it. You know, I've been through
the last 2 years. You've really been through it. Yeah,
been through it, right?
Mhm.
And for someone to say he met Derek and I really like him, that warms my heart because it tells me that I'm more than the sum of my experiences. I'm more than I'm not just a remainder of what has
Mhm.
come before. I'm the math incarnate. And I like that. I like that. But you bring up this excellent point. You cannot escape your biases. You cannot escape your shortcomings, your idiosyncrasies, your prejudices, and we all have them.
And we all have them. Yes, we do.
We all have them. And no
Hmm.
matter how much we try to escape the bonds of that short-mindedness, there's no escape. Like we didn't grow up in the Jedi Temple and we
Right.
weren't guided away from that stuff. So we have to work. That's why anybody that comes to this path at this time in their life, I give them my full attention.
Hmm.
I give them my full attention because you have lived. I don't know who you are or where you come from or what you're all about, but I know that you are subject to the human condition like me, like Master Bane, like anybody else. And for you to choose to want to better your spirit, your mind, and your body, and with the Jedi way, I have to take a pause and say, okay, let's see if this is going to work. Let whatever we have to do to see if this is the right path for you. I'm going to put that time into you because of exactly what you said. It takes a lot to overcome a lifetime of conditioning. It takes a lot. And sometimes as a Jedi master, I'll be the first to tell you, I am not always successful with that. I'm a human being.
Yeah.
I'm a person that was shaped and molded by the experiences and the happenings of this planet. And I do the best I can. I try to be better every day, just a little bit more. And it's hard work. And just that little bit, just trying to manipulate that 4%, just that little 4% every day is taxing because the innateness in me, I want it easy. I want it fast. I want the fast and quick solutions and results like anybody else. I want, and I don't really want to have to give too much to get what I want. And that's not the way. That's not the Jedi way. And I have to keep telling myself that so I can actually beat my shortcomings, like my prejudices, my biases, and so yes,
Hmm.
I think your point is spot on,
Well,
absolutely spot on.
we have a much larger cup to empty when we come to this path. And it doesn't matter if you come to it at 17 or at 70. You have a large cup to empty because, as you said, we're not born and raised in a temple with these teachings being our only source of
Right.
information in the universe. We have to empty the cup. That's really hard to do because, on top of that, we have other things that kind of color our lenses too, right? We have our upbringing, our cultural influences, environmental influences. The deck is really stacked against a person, and no one gets a pass. Everybody has to come to this path and empty their cup, which can be very, very, very difficult. It was difficult for me because, I think I was probably, I don't know, I was 23 when I came to this path. I'm 48 now. I had a lot of past experiences with many other theologies, many other philosophies. I've always been a natural student. I've always been naturally curious, but none of that matters if you can't, let go of some of that in favor of learning something new. The deck is stacked for sure. It's not impossible. Many of us do it. Many of us get through it. I'll just put it like this: you have to be honest about your biases. You have to be honest about your level of emotional control, whether it's great or not. You have to be honest about your beliefs and reevaluate those and sometimes say, do these beliefs still serve me? And if they don't, then you have to do some work and pour those out. Can I start to control my emotions a little better? at least be aware of the triggers that cause me problems. Self-awareness is your friend with everything. On this path, self-awareness is probably the biggest thing that you can develop, especially during this time of your development and your training, because we all have these things, as you said, but they are things that we can change. So it's tough, but you can do it. We've done it. If I can do it, then any of you can do it. I promise.
Exactly. I say this to any would-be, anybody listening to this podcast that's thinking about the Jedi way. And, I want to just underscore one more thing. It's hard. It's hard, even if this were a religion, beginning a new spiritual journey. To say it's hard it doesn't even do it. This is just my opinion, and you can take this for, any value you can get out of it. I believe, and this is just me, it could be misunderstood that the natural condition for people is negativity. Let me just give me a second on that. None of us knows what happens before our birth. None of us alive is absolutely sure about what happens before we are born. Okay. So we're born into we're coming into a construct that is absolutely different than what we were we were born from. Okay, we in the womb, I'm assuming it's nice and quiet, it's warm, lots of food, lots of nourishment. It's safe for the most part. It's safe, and it's just a happy place. It's just a really happy place to be. And then you're born. And think about that chaos. Think about that shock when you're coming out of that situation, right? You're coming out of that situation with the bright lights, and you got some doctor pulling you out, and you're screaming. Your eyes are being used for the first time. Your lungs are being used for the first time. You hear your voice for the first time. You're cold. It's not a happy. Being born can't be a fun experience for anybody. It can't be. And from that day forward, what are you doing? What do you do? What are you spending your life doing? You're spending your life surviving. You're spending your life making sure that you stay warm, you stay fed, you stay housed and clothed. You have enough medicine and you have enough provisions to make sure that, the biggest worry for any human being is not having enough of something, running out of something. Is it not like especially when you own a home? Like, I want to make sure I have enough of everything, because you never know what can happen. Case in point, California. Like, you just don't know. You don't know. It could be
Yes.
Stuff happens. Stuff pops off quick. So it could be misunderstood or understood, however you look. Whatever your reality is compelling you to focus on, right? That the natural condition of the human being is darkness, is pain, is suffering. And we have to work for our lifetime to negate or mitigate that reality.
Well, yeah, because it's all pure survival.
That's right.
We don't have big claws and big teeth, and we can't run 50 miles an hour. You have to survive.
You have to survive. It's all brain power today. So just consider that. It's natural for us to look for the easy, fastest, most direct way to get or do something. And oftentimes it involves hurting somebody else. It involves taking something from somebody else. It involves manipulating a situation. These things come naturally to the human being. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Because we need to survive.
We need to survive. Exactly right. So every day you're alive, when you're on the Jedi and you're trying to embody the Jedi way, every day is a new chance to be better than what you were the day before. Physics teaches us that reality is shaped by observation and measurement. You observe a thing, and then you try to measure it. Now, you don't take a tape measure and you don't try to do some math with that. When they say measure, you're trying to understand the nature of that thing. So if I see like
Well, yeah, and you're measuring it up against, again, the measurement is up against your beliefs, biases, emotions,
bingo,
experiences, stuff like that.
bingo, and then that's quantum. That's a textbook. Like I'm reading that off my phone right now because I want that to be the textbook. That's a textbook statement. Now the Jedi way, their force powers believe in three components: sense, alter, and control. Okay, you have to sense it, which is observing it, right? You have to alter it and control it. That's measuring it. The point I'm trying to make here is that it's very easy to get lost when you don't have your mind attuned to what you're trying to do philosophically and metaphysically. It's very easy to get lost because the human condition wants this done fast. You want this done fast. You need to understand fast. You need to get going fast. You want your knighthood. You want to get your credentials, and you want to just get this under your belt so you can move forward and whatever. It doesn't work that way. Betterment does not work that way. It takes time. You have to take your time. You are trying to not reverse. I don't believe you're trying to reverse. You're trying to augment or mitigate or control, sense, observe, whatever you want to say. You're not trying to get rid of who you are. You're trying to change. You're trying to evolve what you are. I wanted to underscore that because words don't have weight anymore. I feel like and I always say this to new students coming in. I say, what was it that made you want to seek out like the Jedi way? Well, ever since old Ben told Luke, the Force, this, that, and the other thing, it just kind of felt like, people get hung up on that metaphysical, what they think is like a metaphysical sort of description of the Force. He's not using scientific words. He's using scientific words adjacent. They're philosophical words that mean the same thing. I gave you two readings of the same concept. One is physics, one is the Jedi way. They are the same language, the same similar words. So when you're on this path, you have to, you got to work on yourself first before you even begin any kind of spiritual journey or any kind of religious anything you do. You have to get your mind right for that. You need to be ready for that. You have to come to a place where you're ready to change. You're ready to evolve at 40, 30, 50. This is not an easy thing. This is not an easy thing to do on a whim. It takes time to get comfortable with the idea of changing. Once you get comfortable with that change, you have to understand that confusion is going to come your way because you're so used to wanting this, that, and this so fast and so easy and this, and it's not going to happen that way. We have to build up to that. And I just wanted to just put that out there because I feel that this axiom is a very, very important axiom to me. It basically is the foundation for me, the way I teach at Ashla Nights.
And look, confusion is natural. Doubt is natural. These things are natural because you are, in a sense, being faced with new ideas and ideas that force you, if you are to proceed with growth, to let go of. And I'll say that although Derek is focusing in on the Jedi way specifically, all of this applies to any light philosophy,
Right.
I mean, it applies across the board because these are foundational things that we're talking about. Something I wanted to touch on too before we got any further was opinions and assumptions. Opinions and assumptions, those really color the lenses and they kind of dirty the lens as far as I'm concerned. Now, people who know me in my life, and I've said this before probably, but I'll say it again in case we got some new folks here. I rarely, if ever, give my opinion about anything. I rarely ever make assumptions. I've had to teach myself this because opinions and assumptions both are judgments in disguise. And when you are judging things, there may be a hint of truth or a hint of a factoid in there, but most of the opinion and most of the assumption is not based in truth. And for those who walk the path of light, I don't care what flavor that is, Truth should always be your guiding star. Truth should always be the goal. It should always be the fuel. It should always be the very reason for your purpose in existence. And when you are giving opinions, you are coloring and dirtying those lenses in which you see the world, especially for those of us who are caught up in these echo chambers. We see that a lot in the modern day, where people segregate from one another for whatever reason. It doesn't matter whether it's political, religious, whatever. And those are kind of the two big ones that we see in the more modern day. But when you constantly sit in these echo chambers because they feel comfortable, you get to share your opinions and you get to share with others that are almost exactly like-minded. But if you sit in those places too long, and if you don't force yourself to explore away from those, which can be uncomfortable and it can be hard to do, because a lot of times it does create these emotional triggers. It does trigger these innate biases that we have, these judgments that we have. It tilts our prism to an angle that doesn't really bring growth. But you have to check your opinions at the door. You have to check your assumptions and leave them out in the car before you go inside, because those things are judgments. And really, if you are seeking truth, then you must do the work to eliminate your opinions as best you can, and certainly eliminate your assumptions. We all hear the thing, what an assumption is. It makes an ass out of you and me, right? But assumptions and opinions are judgments. They are judgments in disguise, and they are judgments that we will then, if we are not seeking truth, we will justify them to the ends of time. And when you do that, and especially if you don't branch out, and if you don't force yourself to be uncomfortable in the world and explore and to make yourself listen to different perspectives, it will change you, and it won't change you for good. It'll change you for the worse, and you'll lose yourself in that. So, because a lot of times these judgments from both opinions and assumptions, they have fear in them. They are conflicting, or they cause conflict.
Yep.
They certainly cause misunderstanding. That's why this stuff's hard, because that's hard to do. Because, well, and nowadays, I think you'll agree, nowadays, the only thing prevalent on TV, the only thing prevalent in the news, and the only thing prevalent in a lot of institutions is opinion. Nobody's really speaking truth anymore. They just give their opinion. And a person's opinion, let me tell you like this: I don't give you my opinion because there's absolutely no way that you could ever understand where that opinion is coming from my perspective, because that opinion only belongs to me, and I'm the only one that gives a crap about that opinion. So my opinion isn't really worth anything. That's why I try my best to, when I'm spoken to, when I'm speaking, or when I'm listening, even listening, we form opinions in our head or assumptions when we're listening to people. If you seek truth, you must leave judgment behind. And, we all have those, and they're very difficult to get rid of. And we probably can't ever totally abolish those because, part of those judgments and assumptions do link back to our ancestors' survival, right? We don't have to survive that way. Most of us don't have to survive that way anymore. So like you said earlier, it's kind of all in the mind. Biologically, we are still built to be in survival mode, because that's just how we were made. But yeah, so opinions and assumptions are not good, because judgment's not good. You can't see the clearest picture possible through your lenses if they are covered in assumptions and opinions.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that's spot on. I do. I agree.
Let me ask you this. We've talked a lot about kind of what colors our lenses, and some of those are good things and most of those are bad things, but a lot of it is preconditioned. A lot of it is human nature. How do we clean our lenses? How do we start to change? What can we change to start coloring these lenses, and almost like focusing in a telescope, right? How do we start to clear the vision to move past these things that we suffer from?
I think the best way, and I would tell, this is what I tell students. You want to try to adopt an unbiased perspective. That's a noble pursuit. I'm not going to dissuade anybody from trying to do that, especially now, today, where truth is on. The idea of truth is under attack. There's a truth that a person holds to and may disagree with somebody else's truth that they're holding to. And now you have a discussion or a debate or an argument or whatever. But there's some things, because of the construct of creation that we are living in, that really aren't up for too much of a debate. The planet is a sphere. The sky is blue. Water is wet. Up is up and down is down. 2 + 2 = 4 if we're doing basic arithmetic. I mean, there are certain things that just are what they are. And don't get me wrong, everything in existence can be made to be altered. Yes. Okay. Physics tells us this. The Jedi way tells us this. Most religions of light any religion, any philosophy tells us this. But for the idea that we exist in this realm where we have to interact with physical things, some things are a given. So the first thing is accepting what is given. Take what is given, accept it. If there needs to be some exploration of thought and whatever you do, you give it that time to do that. Some things are just presented to you. They are what they are. You can either accept them or reject them, but that's the reality. That's number one. Number two, I tell our students, the first thing you have to do is accept the fact that everything that you observe, everything that you see, everything that you interact with, everything you touch can be altered. That's not a Jedi platitude. That's not a Jedi way of force thing. That's science. So if you can change and alter your reality, your perspectives, then think about other people can do the same. And then if you're in their sphere, you're subject to their, not just their observations, but their manipulation of what. So you have to, so in a nutshell, keep an open mind in the fact that everything that you're observing and experiencing can be changed, can be altered. So take that into consideration. Nothing is, everything, there are certain things that are given, but most things can be altered, right? The third thing is look for the nature of things. Don't just take something that somebody gives you and says, okay, this is a fact. Okay, well, that sounds right. It feels good. That I get a good feeling about that. Do some basic homework. Just we live in an age where you can pull out your phone and just, check some stuff out. And yeah, I get it. Everybody says the internet this and the internet that. Not everything on the internet's fake, okay? There are some sources that you can go to that will give you answers, that will give you some clarity.
It's a tool. It's a tool like anything else. It only depends on how you use it.
Exactly.
If you use it for the right things, it'll give you good results.
But and if you're listen, it's not just if you're a short-minded person, like you can't think past your own boundaries of reality. If you that's a problem. If you can't broaden your horizons and open your mind to new possibilities, then you're going to be trapped in what you described as these really cloudy colored lenses.
Yeah.
Like
these echo chambers, man.
Echo chambers, there you go.
I find myself even though I speak these words, if I don't pull myself out of the echo chambers that exist in my sphere of influence, it will get me too. I have to force myself, and it's uncomfortable and it hurts. And sometimes I get my feelings hurt. I know it's hard to believe, I'm sure some out there probably think I don't have any feelings, but I do.
You
and I get them hurt sometimes.
Masturbating's got feelings for days.
Yeah. But, hey, I am a Scorpio, so there's that.
So there's that. It's about the old adage: if it looks like a pig, it squeals like a pig, it rolls around in mud like a pig. Guess what? It's a pig. All right. That's just the bottom line. That's it.
Yeah.
And you just go and you move forward from that. Get your foundation under you. Get your foundation of truth. Make sure that is your foundation, right? That's your truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you build up from that. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to ever happen completely. If anybody's listening to this, and this is my own personal opinion, I don't know if Master Bane agrees with this, but I would tell anybody, don't expect the Jedi way to heal your inequities of character and behavior. Don't expect the Jedi way and the Jedi code to be the say all, be all, answer all to all of your problems. In fact, if you don't understand exactly how these things work, they will be your problem. They will be your new issue, because that's called philosophical confusion. So it's very important. Establish a foundation of truth. First of all, establish a foundation of truth. Get comfortable with the fact that you're about to challenge all your beliefs and all of your truths.
Every single one of them.
Every single one of them. Get comfortable with that. You're to sense and control and alter, okay? Just like the Jedi way teaches. And then get into it, and wherever that whatever truth that leads you to.
I think most people would use the duck analogy.
I know. I'm trying not to.
The pig analogy kind of disturbs me a little bit. I don't know why. It doesn't feel good.
I was just thinking about some bacon. That's all.
Yeah. So everything you said brings us back to our teachings, the Ashla teachings.
Yeah.
The parts of our code: emotion yet peace, ignorance yet knowledge. This just keeps illustrating that how perception, if it's grounded in truth and clarity, that you will have a much easier time. I will agree with you what you just said about the healing and the betterment, only to a point, because this path will do those things for you, but they are not a magic bullet. There's no magic pill. You can't just read the code, and even if you internalize it, you still got to do work, right? Wish you want to do it. You got to still do stuff. Those are only part of the way. There's 3 ways to do it. You have to envision what you want. You have to feel it down into the middle of your bones, and then you have to get up and do it, work towards it. Another way that it connects with Ashla, our teachings, is that we have to cultivate awareness and discernment. Awareness and discernment leads us to wisdom. Wisdom is the goal for a Jedi. And once you get the wisdom, then your job is now to share it. But you have to develop awareness. You have to use discernment. If you don't use discernment, as you were talking about, you hear something, that sounds cool, but I'm going to trust but verify, right? Verify everything. Verify from this source or that, so whatever source you want to use. But discernment and awareness lead us to wisdom, and wisdom leads us to truth. A lot of times you guys will hear me use the word light, and sometimes I'm using it to describe truth. Sometimes I'm just using it to describe balance, harmony. But in this case, discernment, awareness leads us to wisdom, which leads us to light, to truth. And, of course, there's no magic pills.
If I can piggyback on you.
Yeah.
Discernment, and what was it? Discernment and awareness?
Awareness
is the same thing as observation and measurement. And it's the same thing as sense, control, and alter. This is what I'm talking about. Those of you listening to this that are about to embark on this path, I don't know, I say this in jest, learn another language. Like broaden your vocabulary, because words are going to be in my opinion, other than discerning truth for yourself, words are going to be your biggest confusion. Your biggest confusion on any path at all, on any path.
And our language is not very good at helping us.
Oh, exactly. The English language is, there's a lot to be said about it, but we have butchered our grammar and our understanding and definition of words to the point where we throw words out so frivolously and so meaninglessly that trying to bring understanding to, I've had this problem, try to bring understanding to students. They think that you're using these empty platitudes. Like you're trying to sound like some mystical Jedi. Like these are words that actually are they're parallel to actual scientific words, actual philosophical, empirical words. You know what I mean? Like you can't walk around. I'll give you an example. Our Jedi Academy at Ashla Knights, when our first run at that, It was all Jedi. It was the Jedi way, and it was, it was written in a way where, like, if you were on the Jedi path, you would read it and you'd be like, okay, this jives. But I kept getting questions. They're great questions, and it was always the same question too. I see what you're saying, Master. I get what you're saying, but what's the point of that? What is the point of that concept? I always go back to old Ben and Luke Skywalker, the Jedi, the Force, and he talks about the Force and he gets into it, and you listen to it and it brings you in because it's very mysterious and very enigmatic, and you get that tingle up your spine, like you're learning some forbidden knowledge, that some hidden concepts that are long gone, and it's very attractive, it's very seductive. That's what it is. It's seductive. The Jedi language is a seductive language. It brings you in it makes you, like, as if when you're getting into the Jedi way and you're learning it, it's almost like you're with a philosophical mistress. She's just tempting you, or he or she, they're just tempting you with all these power words and these buzz ideas. And you're like, ooh. But then again, you get to a point, like Master Bane said, you get to a point where, as you're discerning and you're having your awareness, and the other, if we turn this into a actual mathematical equation, discernment plus awareness equals wisdom. Like he said, equals wisdom. Learning the nature of a thing is another way to describe wisdom. When you accept your truth and then you start to learn about the nature of that truth, there's where the wisdom starts to percolate. And it's the same as what you're saying, Justin. It's the same thing. You get lost. People get lost because you get to a point where you hit the wall. These words make sense for a little while, and then as your wisdom is starting to gain perspective and starting to anchor down inside your soul as a truth, now you want to know exactly what that. Okay, I don't want to hear old Ben talk about the Force. I want to hear how I can make this happen, how I can make my spirit serene and my mind expansive. I want to hear, like, what are the words, and what are the what's the formula, the technique. And that's when you start to realize, oh my God, science is the same thing. It's the same exact thing. And then there are all your formulas right there. I don't want to get too much into this because this is not the forum for this. But our first iteration of the academy was all Jedi like, and then people were really asking some great questions. They're like, okay, what's the actual word? What's the actual thing? And that's why I came back with a lot more scientific stuff, because we're talking about energy. And when we're doing energy work, energy attracts, resists. You need to understand how energy works. So we go into energy, the science of energy. We go into the science of this. We go into the science of that. And people were starting to find the correlation. They're like, oh, basically, these are the same ideas, but different words. Yes. So I say to you, you're about to embark, or you're already on the path and you're kind of new to it. Be very careful with your words. Your teacher, you should have a teacher, you should have somebody that understands this idea that can help you when you get confused, because you will get confused, because you're the learner, you're the student. And I went through it, Master Bane went through it, other Jedi have gone through it. You get to a point where you start to kind of see through the fog of hyperbole, and you're like, okay, this is what it actually is. But you got to stay with it. And absolutely got to have an anchor of truth. You really have to be serious about this. And you have to be serious about anything that you're introducing into your life at this point in your life, that's going to be a philosophical, metaphysical, spiritual, or religious path of betterment. Like Master Bane and I talked about, you're not coming into this like already prepped and ready to do this. You're coming into this like right with the human condition. Like, you are the poster boy or girl for the human condition. You cannot escape the human condition. You cannot do it. If you think the Jedi way is going to absolve all of that for you, that's not how this works. You have to accept, like Master Bane said, you have to accept all of your inequities, all of your shortcomings, and what did you say, Master Bane? You said you have to be self-analytical
Well,
I believe
you have to be honest about it. You have
you
to
got to be
face
honest
these
about it, right?
things. Right.
And you have to be self-analytical and self-critical. You have to be self-critical.
But you
If you
shouldn't be
can,
judgmental.
and you should not be judgmental, but you have to recognize your own shortcomings and say, okay, that's where I got to put some work into that. It's not going to happen overnight. Let's put it this way. You're listening to a podcast with two practicing Jedi. You think we came into this like, no, it takes work. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. So I just wanted to
Well,
just
and
kind
I
of put
don't,
that up.
I don't use the fiction hardly at all. But the best,
I'm a big
but the
fiction guy.
best, yeah, I know you are. You have all the books and all the toys and all the, but nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. It makes bath time fun, right? But the best example, if you are somebody who enjoys the fiction, the best example of what we're talking about would be like Luke Skywalker, who really didn't have anybody to teach him except for a couple of ghosts, and he had to figure a lot of that stuff out. And he went the hard way, right? He took the long way because he didn't have a choice. That was it. And I think, and yes, I know I say I don't share opinions, but I'm gonna just share one now because I can't help it with this one.
Yeah.
Is that I think it made him a better Jedi,
Oh yeah.
honestly, at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
So
That's it.
all right. Let's just like every show, I'm gonna give you some homework. I love giving you homework. And I just for your kind of FYI, I do these exercises too. A lot of these exercises that I share with you each episode are based on things that I have done for myself and that I have taught others. So this is the exercise for today, and we're going to call it the perception shift practice. Step 1, identify a challenging situation. I know there's no shortage of those for all of us here. Write down a recent situation where your perception created stress, frustration, or fear. You're going to take this and you're going to go into step 2, reframe the situation. Reframe it, right? It's already happened. Now we're in the introspection part of our practice here. Remember, practice, practice, practice. So reframe the situation. Ask yourself these couple of questions. What assumptions am I making about this situation? What positive lesson or opportunity could I uncover by shifting my focus away from judgment? Step 3 is to take aligned action. Commit to responding with compassion, curiosity, calmness, rather than fear or frustration. And then reflect on how the shift changes your experience. Our affirmation for the day. I love affirmations. In the book I wrote, I wrote 10 for each one, and that's 150 axioms time, that's a lot. 1500 like there's no shortage of affirmations, but I love affirmations, and I'm gonna give you one today, as I always do. I shape my reality through perception. I choose to see with clarity, balance, and light, transforming challenges into opportunities. For my journalers out there, which I hope all of you are, I won't poke at you too much this time. Your journaling prompt for today is reflect on a time when changing your perspective transformed your experience. What did this reveal about the power of perception? So the question of the day, and I'm going to hit you with this one, Derek. I hope you're ready. The question of the day: have you ever shifted your perspective and seen a situation in a completely different light? If so, how did it change your reality? And Derek, I'll prompt you based on a conversation we had a pre-show. Was you recently kind of stepped away from all social media for a little bit?
I perceived, so like many of you, I have a Facebook account, a personal Facebook account. And with everything that's going on right now in the United States with politics and geopolitical, people have a lot to say about these situations right now on Facebook. I think everybody listening to this understands where I'm coming from. I decided to delete my account for a while, like not deactivate it, just delete it, because and Justin, you said some really great things. I was kind of agonizing over this because I feel like as a Jedi Master, I need to be I can't be running from discomfort like this. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable, and nobody wants anxiety or any kind of suffering, like emotionally. Nobody wants this. But there are times when you have to endure these things. And when you follow this path is a path, like the destiny of a Jedi is to confront fear. That is the fact of the Jedi way. That's what you live with. That's what you deal with. And I was developing I wouldn't say a fear, but a anxiety every day of having to log in and just read from both sides of the aisle these extreme points of view. Now, these are people I know for the most part, and there's a lot of people I don't know, just by association or whatever. And to see some of the things that my friends or people I know believe, the things that they post, it broke my heart. It just breaks my heart. And I just got sick and tired of every day logging in, and I don't spar with anybody politically anymore. I just don't. I stopped doing that a long years ago. Like Justin said earlier in the show, like if that's the bed you want to lay in, enjoy your sleep. You know what I mean? Like do you. I'm not here to sway or convince anybody that they're right or they're wrong. That's not my job. That's not my place in life. I don't judge you. I try not to judge you. I'm a human being, and none of us are perfect, but I go above and beyond to try to be conscientious of my rebukes and my disappointments and my approvals and so on and so forth. But you get to a point where you just like, I felt that I'm looking at nonsense, I'm looking at hatred. I'm looking at ignorance. I'm looking at just this. I'm not saying anything that anybody listening to this is not going to agree with. I just didn't want the strife. I got enough things going on. I don't want this. So I decided to get rid of my account. But then as I did it, I thought about it and I'm like, should I have done that? And Justin and I were talking before the show because obviously he noticed it and he was like, what's up? And I explained it to him. And I had also said, I had decided that, in a couple of weeks, I'll come back to Facebook under Ashla Knight and, and just have that presence so I can interact with those of us on this path. But that's pretty much all I want to do. And so, yeah, I experienced something that made me very uncomfortable. And my solution in order to preserve my own emotional sanctity was to step back from that. Now, there are times as a Jedi, this is the other thing too. There are times, even as a Jedi, you got to say, okay, all right, that's the hill you want to die on. There's an old joke. That joke where, and I'm going to say it wrong because I don't really know how it goes. Maybe you know it, Justin. There's a guy. There's a flood, right? The flood, and the guy is told to evacuate his house. Does this sound familiar? He's told to evacuate his house. Okay, so there's a flood coming, and the municipality tells everybody to evacuate. There's one guy, and we all know there's always a handful of people who are going to weather the storm because they don't want to leave their stuff behind. This guy was told, you're in the path of the bulk of this flood. You need to get out. The guy doesn't want to leave. The flood comes, floods his first floor. He goes to the second floor, makes a phone call, says he needs help. They can't get to him. The flood gets to the second floor. He has no place to go but to the roof. He goes to the roof. A plane flies by. Or excuse me, a helicopter comes by. They try to dip in to pick him up. He waves them off. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. I got God on my side. I'm going to be fine. Okay. A raft comes over. They want him to jump off the roof, get into the raft. Don't worry about me. Me and my house, we're protected. God's going to take care of us. No problem at all. There's another thing that comes to try to save him. And then the flood takes over the house, goes past the roof, drowns the guy. Guy gets to heaven. He goes up to St. Peter. I don't understand. I've been a faithful man. I accepted Jesus Christ into my life. Blah, 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 blah. Why did this happen? It shouldn't have happened. And they said to him, we tried to save you. We sent a helicopter. We sent a raft. We had somebody make a phone call. So this is what, I think about that example as I thought about it. I'm like, I should have stayed. But no, sometimes you have to just go. You have to just go. You just can't, you just have to go. And that's okay. That's okay. If you get, it's okay, and
it is. I'll encourage you this because look, your example brings us to something we didn't actually talk about, but it's important, is sometimes we have to disconnect. Sometimes we have to go, not just for rest, not just to, kind of reset, but we also sometimes disconnect so we can reset that perception. So we can start from a more balanced point of view. That's the goal. The Force is always trying to bring us balance.
Right.
So I don't, yes, we have to roll up our sleeves and we have to get our hands dirty if we want to grow and help others, because the people that need our help they're in low places sometimes, and we have to get dirty to help them up. But we also have to practice good self-care, and there are plenty of things right now, and probably over the last 5 years, things that I've seen, or more, 5 or 6 years maybe, where it's just really hard in the world, and it doesn't matter. And again, no one's safe from that. We all gonna, what happens to one will happen to all, because we are connected. We are interconnected. So I leave that question with you. Folks. I'll say it again. Have you ever shifted your perspective and seen a situation in a completely different light? If so, how did it change your reality? Share your story using #PerceptionReality. So as I always do, I want to encourage you to try the exercise and share your insights. If they're not too private, share them. I'd love to hear them. Send me a private message. Send me an email, knightsofawakening@gmail.com. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear your results with that. Also, it'd be great if you guys would talk about this in your communities. Get to know each other. Share strategies with each other. Share ways to see things from a new perspective. Share how it's changed your life when you change your perspective. I'd love to see those in the communities and homes that you guys are. I am connected to most of them at this point, unless there's some new ones. And if so, send me an invite on Facebook. If you have any groups that I'm not part of, I'd love to poke around and share with you guys. As we wrap this up, I hope this episode has inspired you to recognize the power of perception in shaping your reality, and that when our perspective comes from a place of clarity and balance, and when we work hard and we practice using discernment and growing our awareness and removing the need to judge, whether that be sharing an opinion that really isn't based in truth, or an assumption that really not based in truth. Truth should be your guiding star. So I hope that we've inspired you to do that, and I hope that you've gotten some good information out of this conversation today. Derek, did you want to leave our folks with anything before we go?
May the Force be with you all.
Thank you guys so much. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucium.